Hi everyone, James from TDB here, bringing you another In-Betweenisode. So today I am going to be talking about the 2001 Iron Cake 8653, the Xiao Heifei, also known as black versus the red. So there were two different big iron cakes made in this year from Xiaguan. There's actually a third too that I'm not sure if it follows the same recipe, but it's export to Malaysia. You almost never see that one. This is probably the one you'll see the second most often, the Xiao Heifei. The other one is the Da Hongfei. So Teasui sells this version, and it's important to distinguish that when we're talking about Iron Cake 8653 from 2001, because the two versions that are most well known, this one and the Da Hongfei, are very, very different from one another. I think I'll probably have to do a blind at some point. It's going to be a very obvious blind because the teas present just extremely differently from one another. This one, in my opinion, represents kind of what Iron Cake 8653 would come to be. It's closer to the 2005s, it's closer to the 2003s, and just kind of the Xiaguan house style in general. So we're talking about like pine, menthol, probably used to be a bit smoky at some point, has kind of this syrupy texture and thickness to it. I did a blind just a little bit ago comparing 2001 and 2005, and you can tell that these two definitely follow the same recipe. The Da Hongfei, on the other hand, is quite different. It's a little fruitier. It's a bit brighter. I've heard people compare it a little bit more with Munghai Tea Factory tea, and that resonates. I think that generally tracks with my experience with that tea as well. And so, you know, you could approach these teas from a couple different angles. Iron Cake 865 recipe, you could be like, okay, I want to buy tea that kind of sits in this sweet spot for value and stuff like that. And so for a lot of people, that's also going to differ a little bit. But I think for a lot of Westerners in particular, 2005 is kind of that sweet spot where you can get something that's thick paper. So those productions were a little bit earlier in the year, which are generally considered to be a little bit better than the Iron Cake 8653 from later in the year. And those can range from, I don't know, $40 on Taobao to $70-$80 from somewhere like Quiche, or even to $140-$150 from teas we like. It's a little pricier there. But regardless, it's not the most expensive recipe that you can run into for sure. And those are good because they represent the recipe, and they're pretty good quality. They're not the best necessarily, but they are pretty good. And you can run into kind of a similar sweet spot for Munghai Tea Factory recipes too, like 2006, 2008, 8582, that sort of thing. Is it the best ever? No. But is it good enough? For a lot of people, the answer is yes. For Xiaguan, you can even go later. You could go later in the year in 2005, where the prices get even cheaper. You'd go to 2006 or 2007, where the prices are even cheaper than that, where we're talking about like $30 Iron Cake 8653s. Are they, what percentage of the tea are they compared to the earliers? It's hard to say. You'd have to compare them by sample cake or whatnot to determine if it's worth it. Conversely, you could start going in the reverse direction. So go to 2004, the price gets significantly higher than 2005. Go to 2003, where you have kind of most famously the Xiao Fei Iron Cake. This one, so 2003 and earlier, as well as some 2004 ones, this is the pre-reform period, and so you're not going to have that kind of stereotypical crane that you get for the later productions, 2005 onwards, as well as some of the 2004s. So that kind of trademark happens just right in that period. So those cakes look different, but you can tell that they follow the same recipe, and the quantity that was made is quite a bit less, and a lot of people think the quality is better too. But as soon as we make that leap into 2003, we're talking more about $200-ish. Iron Cake. So quite a bit more than the 60, 70 that is going to happen just a couple of years later. And you jump back even further to 99 and the price is higher. So each year makes quite a big difference. And that's just because the quantity was being raised each year and the quality, people debate that, but it's generally considered that the quality went down as time passed and the strength of the tea also did. So the 2001, I would say, is the best example you can buy right now easily from the Western market. It sells for about $440, so it's a couple orders of magnitude more expensive than the 2005s that you'll run into. But I do think there is a a significant difference when we're talking about that. So if you're someone where, money doesn't matter that much, or you're not price sensitive to that degree, then I do think the 2001 is absolutely worth checking out. I think it's a pretty interesting tea, and I think it does showcase a lot of what people like a lot about kind of the earlier factory styles, just in terms of its strength, and it's just kind of overall sweatiness and impact. 2005, nice sweet spot, is the one that I have the most of, frankly. But the 2001 does have a little bit more special stuff, I would say, going on with it. And definitely a lot harder to find and more expensive when you do find it. Okay, so this is steep number 4. So I've actually been brewing this a little bit earlier. So yeah, this Iron Cake 8653, some people hate the recipe, some people hate Xiaguan, other people love it. For me, at least, I like Monghai Tea Factory quite a bit more than Xiaguan, but this 8653 is definitely my most consumed numbered recipe of the last decade. I've drank a lot of this tea, specifically the 2005 version. I've had the 2001 a lot less, but it is, it's interesting to compare it, especially when you're comparing it with something that you know pretty well, because it's been kind of part of that daily drinker rotation for a while. While that cools down, I'm going to heat this up again and make another steep, just so we can keep this episode moving. So, iron cakes too, a little tricky to extract. A lot of people like pots for the heat, which sometimes I feel can be a little bit overrated. But these guy ones are great because you can just really see the leaves unfurl slowly as it brews out. And I've only had a few steeps of this, but I already am feeling just the power of these teas. And, part of that's caffeine, but part of it is just, these teas are potent. They were not messing around back then. You also would definitely want to pay attention to the storage that these have had. Teaspoon Like in particular is really good at selecting for excellent storage. So it's no coincidence that they have been kind of the pioneers in the Western market as far as seeking out Malaysia storage and that sort of thing, which in my opinion would do absolutely fantastic things for this tea. This one happens to be Taiwan storage. It's good Taiwan storage though. It works quite well for this tea. It's thick, it's woody. I would say one note that I get a little bit more in this versus the 2005 is it does have a little bit more of an incense going on, both aromatically as well as the taste. I would say this one was perhaps a little bit overbrewed, but as a result of the overbrew, I get more bitterness, but I also get just more activity everywhere, just stuff on the palate of the mouth. I think it's all going to be very just very coating in terms of that. I'm getting even some throat feel too, a bit more depth than used to for Xiaguan. And I'm feeling this tea, man. I probably got to eat something after this. I kind of get what people say when they say that this tea needs more time too, because it is a potent beast. I think the 2001 Da Hong Fei in comparison is probably a little bit more ready to drink. Cheers. It's medium thick, heavy incense, heavy woodiness. There's a little bit of pine notes too. There's some menthol, but it's a little bit reduced compared to the 2005. I would say there's a little bit less initial sweetness to this tea. It's a little bit burlier and it's just stronger. Interesting to think that the 2005 version is both a little bit less dark, so you'd think less aged, but also more ready to consume than something like this. I mean, I can drink this, but you gotta brace for impact to some extent. It's nice, strong. Yeah, the mouthfeel is just very impressive. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Let me know what your experience is with this. I believe some people just recently split in Iron Cake of this up, so I'd be very curious to hear what they think of it, especially if they are familiar with the recipe. In the later years, 2005 would probably be the most common. So thank you all for tuning in. I will see y'all next time. Cheers.